Hello book lovers and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to author Solveig Eggerz. Solveig is the author of Siga of Reykjavik, one of the finalists in this year's Book Talk Radio Club Awards. Hello Solveig, welcome and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Hello, Claire, it's my pleasure.
Solveig, would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club's listeners a brief synopsis of your book, please?
Yes, the story is about a woman named Siga. Her full name is Siga, and she's a hired hand working on a very poor farm in the early part of the 20th century in Iceland. She suffered abuse on the farm. She dreams of escaping. Finally, when she escapes to Reykjavik, the big town, she encounters grinding poverty. She tries to fulfill her dream of getting good, clean work as a skilled corset maker, but it's a dream deferred, and she finds that she must support her family in any way that she can, including becoming a fishwoman, cleaning sheep's intestines, and embroidering underwear, and offloading coal from ships. And her big challenge comes when the occupation of Iceland occurs in 1940 by Allied soldiers. This is a wonderful event for Siga because money flows,
Right.
but she has some challenges too.
I see that many of your readers identify with Siga. What kind of woman is she?
Well, she is kind of woman who, if a man touches her without her permission, she will slap him so hard that he will fall over backwards. She's an outsized kind of personality, and she'll dress as a man to unload coal, and she will do anything that has to happen in order to support her family. But she also is a woman who has a lot of accumulated anger from childhood, which makes her strong, physically strong. I was playing with that concept of physical strength that comes from anger. She can lift a calf, she can lift a man, throw him into the ocean if she wants to. So she's an outsized kind of woman, but she also has a powerful need for security. She has her own weaknesses too.
So here's Siga fleeing her abusive life on a farm in rural Iceland to Depressionera Reykjavik. Can you paint a picture of Depressionera Reykjavik? What was it like?
Well, it was the poverty was enormous. Iceland was so isolated at this time. They were under the colonial power, Denmark, and Denmark did not pay much attention to Iceland in those days. They had their own concerns. Iceland had no airport, and they were trying to survive on the fishing industry. Then they were selling salt fish to Spain, and then there was the Civil War there, and after that they were supplying fish and chips to England, and there was a huge tariff on the fish there. So it was just very hard to survive. The labor unions were just forming, and there were those who strove to make Iceland a republic, as I said, free of the monarchy. But there were also extreme left-wing activists and extreme right-wing activists, and they actually fought in the streets occasionally, just as they did in Paris and London. But it was very tough.
Iceland was officially neutral through World War II. However, the British invaded Iceland on the 10th of May 1940. On the 7th of July 1941, the defence of Iceland was transferred from Britain to the USA, and suddenly Iceland is swamped in a wave of oversexed, overpaid and overhere young male foreigners. In this case, a new wave of 20,000 that threatens to overwhelm the Reykjavik of the day. How does Siga react to this?
Well, the Iceland's population was very small at that time, only about 120,000 total, and the British never completely left, but the Americans came, and so the peak of soldiers it peaked at about 50,000 soldiers. So this was absolutely overwhelming.
Sure.
But as I mentioned, Iceland was in deep economic depression prior to the arrival of the soldiers on May 10, 1940, and that was when Iceland came out of isolation of hundreds of years. So in a way, it was a wonderful thing for many people.
Right.
Also for women. It was just so exciting to have the world come in, and that's how Siga reacted. And this was a huge opportunity for her to make money in all kinds of ways. And she was washing clothes, she was sewing on buttons, she was teaching Icelandic. And suddenly women wanted to buy corsets. So in every possible way, Siga was thrilled, and the men were so attractive. But she also had a daughter, was 14 years old, a redheaded daughter, and she realized that she had to protect that girl from the soldiers. So it was a huge conflict for her also.
Does Siga of Reykjavik have a happy ever after ending?
Well, I can't guarantee happy ever after, but for me, when you have a character who has among her traits or characteristics a certain weakness or a certain trait that prevents her development or prevents her from being happy, then if that character realizes and learns and gains a deeper understanding of herself in the course of the story, that for me is a happy ending. I hope that the readers perceived the change in Siga that occurs. It appears towards the end that she is different.
You're receiving some great reviews for Siga Reykjavik, including there's a crackling warm fire of a story here filled with incredible loss accompanied by the grace to surmount it, and an indomitable and unforgettable main character. Also, remarkable research and writing and not a book to put down. What was the most important moment to you, Solveig? The first review or the first sale, and why?
Oh, the first sale was definitely the most important, because this book was first published in Iceland, and it was such a thrill for me to see my classmates, because I attended high school in Iceland for 4 years, and to see them buy the book and comment on the book. So it was definitely seeing people warm to the book that thrilled me. The reviews came later, and I was very happy they weren't all written by my friends. No.
Yes, it's always good to have a review by a complete stranger, isn't it?
Yes, lovely.
Was there a particular book or author that inspired you to write?
I loved Annie Proulx's The Shipping News.
Okay.
She's a very strong writer for me, and she allows herself so many interesting ways of saying things and using sentences. The other one is a Southern writer, Reynolds Price, who wrote a book called Kate Vaden. She was the most outrageous, outsized character I've ever encountered. I read her years ago, and I never forgot her. But I must mention the Icelandic sagas also. So they always rest inside me somewhere.
Right.
The female characters in the Icelandic sagas have tremendous prominence. They are outspoken, and they often say outrageous things, like Siga. And I like that very much. They weren't all just nice.
Let's talk about your first published novel, Seal Woman. Would you like to tell Book Talk Radio Club's listeners about the story?
Well, the story is based on a historical incident. In 1949, 351 Germans, most of them women, traveled by boat to Iceland from Germany, from war-racked Germany, to get employment on the farms there. And that story is not known to very many people. I studied those women, their biographies, and the character in my story is really a composite of one of those women. But what fascinated me about that event occurs in Charlotte, who is a woman who has a dual consciousness. She marries and has children in Iceland, but she's never all there because here in Iceland, let's say, she, as part of her heart, is always in Germany where she left a child whose fate was unknown. So part of her was absent, really, and so she had that yearning, and that's what the book is about. Is about this woman's struggle, really,
right,
to deal with this. And there was I had encountered this concept of the dual consciousness in a funny way. I came across the memoir by Svetlana Stalin, the daughter of Joseph Stalin, the dictator. She settled here in the U.S., married a nice man, and had a child, and had an idyllic existence, we think. But her heart was in the Soviet Union, where those other children lived, and her father forbade her to have any contact with them. I felt like she lived just a very, very sad life due to this yearning and the dual consciousness. And Claire, it is really the story is also based on the legend of the Selkie. It's called Farmer Brown and the Seal Woman. And it's a farmer who falls in love with a seal, a woman who's really a seal.
Yes,
and so,
I've heard about that.
She has that divided consciousness. Her children on the land, her children in the sea. And it's based on my life, too. I have this dual consciousness, so, yeah.
Both Seal Woman and Siga of Reykjavik take place in Iceland. Why Iceland? Is that where your family are from? I mean, you were saying you went to school there.
No, I'm 100% Icelandic. Both of my parents were Icelandic.
Right.
I was born there, and my father was in the Foreign Service, the Icelandic Foreign Service. After Iceland became a republic, we formed embassies in different countries, and he was served in 3 different countries,
right.
And I was always with him, except for those 4 years when I went to Iceland to go to high school, where I put down roots. Yeah. So I have a yearning,
Both novels are also feature strong-spirited women, so we've got Charlotte and Siga. Are their characters based on someone you know, or a mixture of women?
Yes. Well, I mentioned Svetlana, of course, regarding Charlotte. Siga she is bigger than she's the kind of woman I wish I were. But I had my aunt, who was a farmer. There's the parts of her. She was such a hard-working, strong woman. Parts of her are in Siga. And my grandmother, after whom I'm named, my grandmother Solveig, she was known as the bossy one. And she never suffered poverty. But honestly, I think there might be a little bit of her in Siga. Not sure.
Will there be more from Siga, or have you heard the last from her?
I have finished my story about her, I think. I think she's probably pretty happy wherever she is.
And lastly, where can people purchase Siga of Reykjavik, and of course Seal Woman?
Well, you can order them through any indie bookstore or on Amazon.
Right.
That would be the best way to go.
All right. Well, thank you, Solveig. Congratulations once again for being picked as a finalist in Book Talk Radio Club's 2019 awards. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thanks very much. Lovely to talk to you.
Very well. Thank you.
Bye now.